You know the feeling. It's 2 a.m., you are staring at the ceiling, and your body is just completely exhausted. But your brain, oh, your brain is running a marathon, right? It's churning through to-do lists, worries, that one super embarrassing thing you said 7 years ago. We have all been there. But what if the answer isn't about trying to force your mind to be empty, but actually getting a little smarter about what you fill it with?
And hey, if you think you're alone in this, you're not. This isn't just a you problem, it's a human problem. Even the experts, the people who literally study sleep for a living, they have those nights where their brain just will not switch off.
In fact, you're in a club with about 852 million other people. That's how many folks around the world are estimated to have this same struggle. It is a massive, shared experience of modern life.
So that brings us to the big question, right? When the pros, the researchers, the clinical psychologists, when they're the ones tossing and turning, what do they do? Well, it turns out they've got some surprisingly effective, kind of clever strategies, and that's exactly what we're going to break down.
First things first, to fix the problem, we got to understand the problem. Why exactly does our brain seem to fight us so hard when all we want to do is get some rest?
Okay, here's the core of it. During the day, your brain is an amazing problem solver. It's what it does best. But at night, that same system can totally backfire. It can't tell the difference between a real, actual threat and just an anxious thought about a meeting tomorrow. So what does it do? It treats both like an emergency and flips on the high alert switch.
In that high alert mode, it floods your body with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart starts pounding, your muscles tense up, and your brain becomes even more alert. The absolute opposite of what you need for sleep. You're basically in a state of fight or flight, all while lying in bed.
So here's the crucial piece of the puzzle. The mechanism that's driving all this is something called verbal thinking. It's that inner monologue, the part of your mind that's narrating all your worries in full sentences. That is the engine that's keeping you stuck in problem-solving mode. And stopping that engine, well, that's the key.
So if that inner narrator, that verbal thinking, is the engine keeping you awake, how do you turn it off? Well, the solution isn't to empty your mind, which is, let's be honest, pretty much impossible. The trick is to fill it with something else. Think of your attention like a tiny stage. If you can fill that stage with something kind of boring and random, there's just no room left for the worries to take the spotlight.
And this brings us to our first tool, the cognitive shuffle. This technique is so clever because it basically copies what our brains already do when we fall asleep. You know how you start having weird, scattered, random thoughts? This is about deliberately guiding your brain down that same exact path.
Here's how it works. You pick a totally neutral, kind of boring word, like blanket. Then, for each letter, you just visualize an unrelated object. B is for banana. L is for lamp. Now the key is to resist that urge to connect them or make a story. It's going to feel weird at first, but researchers say it takes about a week of practice for your brain to really get the hang of it.
All right, another powerful tool for your kit is called serial sevens. Dr. Anna Joyce is a big fan of this one. You just start at a high number, like 1,000, and count backwards by 7. It takes just enough concentration to keep your mind busy, but it's so boring it doesn't create any excitement or stress.
And this is exactly why it's so much better than counting sheep. As Dr. Joyce points out, counting sheep is just too easy. Your brain can do it on autopilot while still running that worry track in the background. Serial sevens is just challenging enough to actually shut that down.
Okay, so what if distracting yourself just isn't working? Our next set of tools is all about psychology. This isn't about changing your thoughts, it's about changing your relationship to the feeling of being awake.
Now this one is pretty wild. It's called paradoxical intention, and it comes from Professor Colin Espy. The idea is to just stop trying so hard to fall asleep. In fact, you lie there in bed and you gently try to stay awake. By taking away all that pressure and struggle, you often just allow sleep to happen on its own.
It's such a subtle but really powerful shift in your mindset. You're not forcing sleep to happen. You're just creating the conditions where sleep is invited to arrive whenever it's ready. It's all about enabling, not trying.
Here's another amazing reframe. You know that 1 a.m. panic when you wake up? Well, it turns out that before artificial light, lots of people had a first sleep and a second sleep, with a little wakeful period in between. Just realizing that waking up might be totally normal, maybe just an evolutionary hangover, can take away so much of the anxiety, which, ironically, is often the very thing keeping you awake.
This is a classic piece of advice for a very good reason. If you're lying there, still awake after about 20 minutes, and you feel yourself getting frustrated, just get up. The whole goal here is to break the connection your brain is making between my bed and the place I feel stressed and frustrated. Go read a boring book in another room and only come back when you feel that genuine wave of sleepiness.
Okay, our final category of tools focuses on the long game. Because let's be real, great sleep doesn't just start when your head hits the pillow. It starts with the habits you practice all day long.
I love this term, a photon shower. Professor Russell Foster says getting 30 to 40 minutes of morning light is one of the single most important things you can do for your sleep. It's like hitting a reset button that tunes up your internal body clock for the entire day.
And of course, the fundamentals always matter. Experts consistently point to a few key things: a healthy diet, like the Mediterranean style, getting regular exercise, but just making sure it's not too close to bedtime, and finally, creating a 1-hour wind-down period before sleep, where you just put away any work that's mentally taxing.
Dr. Michael Grainer has this fantastic behavioral hack. Instead of lying in bed scrolling on your phone, which sends your brain all sorts of mixed signals, just sit on the edge of your bed. That's it. Eventually, your body will give you a really clear signal, a real urge to lie down. That's your cue. You're essentially creating a clear commute to sleep that trains your body to know when it's truly ready for rest. So we've looked at the brain science, we've got some mental tricks, some daily habits. What does this all add up to? Let's put it all together into a simple toolkit that you can start using tonight. We've basically got 3 different kinds of tools. First, you have your mental distractions, like the cognitive shuffle and serial 7s, to fill up that mental space. Then, you've got your psychological reframes to change your whole attitude about being awake. And finally, you have your behavioral routines that set the foundation for a good night every night.
Look, there's no single magic bullet here. The best approach is to experiment a little and see what works for your brain and your body. So the question really isn't whether these things work, it's about which one will work for you. Which tool from this kit are you going to try out tonight?